Hi. Well, today I'm back down to the bottom of my garden, down by the lake. We've got the view behind us of, well, it doesn't look like much of a view right now, right, because of all the clouds. There's the Toliman and Atitlan volcanoes, and over there is San Pedro. And what we can see, of course, is the cloud build-up because rainy season is beginning. And today, because I'm talking about the Trecena of Kan on this day, 13 Cat, the last day of the Ech Trecena, I figured that it might be interesting to see if we can actually kind of like capture some lightning. Now, hopefully, it's not going to actually turn into rain just yet, and I'll have time to actually complete the Trecena. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen over there. So we're pointing in the right direction anyway. So the Trecena of Kan, what's that all about? Kan, the energy, Kan, the power, Kan, the wisdom. Kan is a representation of our teachers. Kan is a representation of what happens when we pass our wisdom on, we empower others. When we use our body lightning, when we connect with our energy, whether we might call that ki or Tz'i or prana or kundalini, whatever it is that we want to talk about with regards to this life force energy, it tends to be something which brings us wisdom. Now, there are two ways that we can use that. We can either keep it to ourselves, in which case we kind of like become illusionists. We're holding on to it. We don't want to share our power. We don't want to give our wisdom away, as it were. Or we can choose to share that wisdom and empower those around us. And so we can see that's why the Kan energy is also about teachers, because they're people who share their wisdom to empower others, to empower the community. So we can see a lot of different things happening here. Kan energy, when we use it, when we are able to use our power, when we able to use our wisdom, it helps us to see through illusions. And so Kan Trecena could well be about a new way of seeing through illusions, a new way of using our power. And of course, we're going to begin with the day one Kan. So this is the start of something, the beginning of the acquisition of new wisdom, perhaps, the beginning of a new way of understanding how to use our power, perhaps some form of training or something like that, beginning with one Kan. And the ability to renovate through the use of our power. Okay, and so it is the beginning. It's like the first spark of something, the first spark of life in something, with the understanding that this is going to develop into something more powerful. But it's really important that as we guide that, as we take note of it, what we got to do is understand how to use it correctly, because we don't necessarily, well, maybe we do, but like I personally wouldn't choose to necessarily use that power, keep that power to the self, because that's all about the creation of the illusion, right? That's all about the darker side of it. But it's about empowerment. Empowerment, the beginning of empowerment through wisdom. So once again, we can see it as beginning of sharing, the beginning of learning, the beginning of teaching. Perhaps it's a great time for a course or something like that. From one Kan, we're then going to go into two Kame. So we've got Kame, the Nawal of death, Kame, the Nawal of transformation. And the number two, which can represent relationships. So it could be a great day for transforming a relationship or something like that. But the number two is also associated with self-sacrifice. And so this could be a spiritual transformation that takes place through self-sacrifice, which sounds like it could be kind of like quite a challenge and that. But of course, this is how we use our energy wisely. This is how we can use our energy to empower others, a little bit of sacrifice on our own behalf in order to bring about that transformative exercise. From Tukame, we're then going to go into 3 Kirch. So Kirch, the Nawal of the wilderness, the Nawal of the mountains and the trees, but also Kirch, the Nawal of the spiritual leader. And one of the things I always think about when I, like, in particular in association with 3 Kirch, 3 is this number which is all about the inside, the inner workings, what's going on inside of you. It's asking us to look inside, because often 3 will seem like it might be a bit of a challenge to kind of like put out onto the outside and all that kind of thing. So on 3 days, it's great to kind of like be looking at it, how you can apply it within your home, how you can apply it within your heart, within yourself. And if we apply the Nawal of Kirch as being the spiritual leader, this is about saying, like, you've got to look for that spiritual leader within you. It's nothing that's going to come from outside today. It's about listening to what's going on within. And what could be more empowering than to understand and recognize and hear the spiritual leader that lives within you, rather than searching for some truth from around. Okay, because the other thing is, we were talking about, or I was talking about, the idea that this Trecena is about seeing through the illusions, and sometimes it's that inner knowing that your own spiritual leader has, particularly if you go and take a walk in your garden, in your, like, the forest around you, to help you to listen to what's going on inside of you. Be your own guru. That's the empowerment. That's the spark, right? That will help you see through the illusions. From three kech, we're then going into four anil. So anil, the ripening, the seeding, the planting. Now, I know that there's people from both hemispheres that will be watching and listening to this, and so for the people in the southern hemisphere, now I know that this is not necessarily the time you're going to plant, because, it's a different time of the year for you. But for the northern hemisphere people, as we are here anyway, this is an exceptionally good time for planting. We've been through the solar zenith. We knew that that was a great planting time as well. Middle of May, great time to be putting out all sorts of seeds. And Fork Anil is one of the best days for actually going out and doing that physical work in the garden to bring things to ripeness. So if you have the opportunity, if you have the ability, if you have the time, Fork Anil is a wonderful day for getting out and getting the seeds into the ground. Those seeds being blessed by Anil, physical, like the physical work. And so it's like physical blessings, physically working with your garden to actually really bring things to ripeness. And so it's just, I always think of it as like going with the tide and making sure that if you're going to plant something, you might as well plant it on the most conducive day to do it. And Fork Anil, for the physical aspects of gardening, is a fantastic one for that. From Fork Anil, we're then going to go into Five Toch. So it's kind of interesting because I've seen five associated with the sacred fire, because that's where we do the work. And of course, Toch is also associated with the sacred fire because that's where we give back. Five Toch is really the day to be putting your work, your energy, and your effort into giving back for what you've received. It is certainly a day of service, and it is certainly a day of what we could say is kind of like hard work of service. Really going out there and doing something to make a difference, doing something to make a change, doing something by putting your energy into service to the community. This is, again, a wonderful application of that energy, that body lightning and all that kind of thing, where the survivors are putting the energy into it. And here it's saying, like, giving something back. Because obviously, if you're receiving wisdom, or if you would like to receive the wisdom that comes from Kan, that comes from the serpent, then giving something back, of course, is just the natural balance of it. From five Toch, we're then going to go into six Tz'i. So, Tz'i, the Nawal of faith and loyalty. Tz'i, the Nawal of justice and law. Tz'i, the Nawal of guidance. We've got all of these things that are associated with the Nawal Tz'i. We can also see it's kind of like about the vices. It's about trust, it's about faith, it's about loyalty. And here, combined with the number six, well, the six could be seen as the number of ultimate stability, bringing those masculine and feminine polarities into the physical world. It can also be seen as a number which represents family. And so 6Tz'i could be very much about faith in the family. Maybe that faith in the family comes through this energy, through this empowerment. Maybe it's faith in your path as well. Maybe it's bringing this ultimate stability to faith in your path by seeing through the illusions. But of course, Tz'i can also represent temptation, and it can represent the vices. And so if we see that this is also the Kan Trecena, when we have that very seductive life force kundalini energy and all that kind of thing going on as well, 6Tz'i could be a very interesting day to try to balance things out, because sometimes it might be the irresistible comes along. And what is the irresistible? It's a test of your loyalty, test of your faith. It's something which you kind of like have to work with in order to get that wisdom, in order to take things forward. And so the faith in the family could be a big part of it, but also this kind of like this faith in the self to overcome the temptation through the understanding of you, of the body lightning, and through the wisdom that you've had. So those things are all working in together. So 6T, don't be surprised if something, let's say, rather tempting comes along, but it's up to you as to whether you feel that's within the flow of your energy and whether that is going to bring more wisdom or not. From 6Tz'i, we're then going into 7 bats. So 7 bats, it's going to be 40 days before Washikib bats, which is a very important day of initiation of the calendar. It is the end of the weaving. So it's very interesting. I always think kind of like when we see the flow of the numbers, they go 7, 1, 8. 7 endings, 1 beginnings, 8 wholeness. And I often see kind of like 7 is the end of the weaving. 1 bats might be the new weaving. So if we understand kind of like 7 as being the old creation, 1 bats as being the new creation, and then 8 bats is the seams, is the seaming, joining 1 bats and 7 bats together to create the whole, where the old passes the bat onto the new. But the 7 bats, the one that we're talking about today, this is about finishing off a creation, finishing off a project. And so if there is a half painted picture in your garage or something along that kind of line, this is the day to finish it off. It's the day to put your final touches to your masterpiece, whatever they might be, to 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 come up with the end of it, to finish off the weaving that you've been going through for the last 240, 260 days or so. Okay, so if you have an artistic project to finish off, then 7 bats is, of course, one of the most beneficial days on which you could be doing that. From 7 bats, we're then going into 8 So the journey. So we celebrated the 1 day. We celebrated that Trecena that we've just been in, the new path. Before that, we were finishing off an old path and working out where we're going to go, and now we're merging them together. It's okay, let's bring the understanding and experience from the old path to the new path to give us a guidance of how to go forward. But also, let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate the old path. Thank you for the path that we've taken so far that has brought us this wisdom. Thank you for the new path, which is bringing us to new wisdom, which is bringing us to new power. On a we make the celebration for that. We make the fire for that. We give thanks for everything that's come along in our path, everything that has helped us to understand, everything that has brought us wisdom, all the experiences on our journey. From 8 we then go into 9 Ach. Now, 9 Ach I see as a very interesting day because Ach is one of the very masculine Nawales. It literally means he of, right? So it's like, it is very much about the staff of office. It's about the benevolent father figure within the home. And so it could be seen as being very masculine. And yet here it's paired with the number 9, which is, of course, very feminine. It's the number of the divine feminine. And so this is a day of feminine leadership. This is a day of compassion through the feminine, but also the strength of that leadership as well. I very much associate with having the spine, having the backbone to stand up for what is right in order to keep society, in order to keep your home in harmony. And most of the time that's a benevolent kind of thing, but sometimes it can become a bit authoritarian, it can be a bit masculine in nature. And the 9 actually rounds off those corners. The 9 brings it forward as the feminine. And so this is certainly a day to celebrate the female leaders of our world, to listen to what they have to say, and to listen to how they can bring harmony to our homes and harmony to our communities. The number 9 can also represent life. And so we could see that in this Trecena, where we're talking about the lightning, the life force energy. I'm still waiting for some lightning to show up. Where we're talking about this life force energy, and nine ach being this kind of like, it is the nine, the life, and ach being balance. Is about using your energy, using your life to bring harmony to your surroundings, to bring harmony to your community. From nine ach, we're then going to go into 10 ish. So ish, the Nawal of the shrines and the altars. Ish, the Nawal of the mother. Ish, the divine feminine. Ish, the Nawal of Mother Earth herself and the magic that comes from her. And so we have all of these things associated with Ish, and then we have it connected with the number 10, representing community, representing cooperation and agreement. And so it might well be a great day for some community action for Mother Earth. A great day for a tidy up, a great day for looking after Mother Earth, for looking after our mothers. It's also a day when we could see kind of like coming together to look after the sacred, to look after what's around us, the shrines and the altars that are up on the mountain, the sacred places that are around us. Tenish is a fantastic day for that. Ish can be seen, she is a caregiver in some ways. She's looking after the community, she's making the prayers on behalf of the community. And here we see them coming together hand in hand, making agreement on how we're going to work together, what we need to bring into the world, and how we might make offerings to do that. From 10 ish, we're then going to go into 11 Tz'ikin. So 11 Tz'ikin can be a little bit of a crazy day. Tz'ikin is the visionary. Tz'ikin has the vision of the eagle, the vision of, the hawk-like vision that can see all around it, that can see in great detail, that can focus. But the shadow of Tz'ikin is being scattered. It's about losing your focus. And here we have it combined with the number 11, which is, well, the number 11 can be a little bit all over the shop in itself. The reason being, it's just going in many different directions. And so when we combine it with Tz'ikin, which is already kind of like has a possibility of losing focus, we can understand that this is not a day when you might find yourself being able to pay attention to the highest degree. You might find yourself extremely distracted on an 11 day, sort of almost like flitting from one thing to another. That's okay, because that's what the 11 days are for. They're not for this kind of like precision focus on one thing. They're for like having a lot of plates spinning at the same time. And the Tz'ikin will be gaining the vision from it. So it's like maybe you need to look at something from many different perspectives, over there, over there, over there, over there, over there, in order to get the true picture. Because again, we're in the Kan Trecena, so we're about looking through illusions. And how are you going to see past the illusion if you only ever approach it from the same angle? 11 Tz'ikin brings you a multitude of different angles to see something from, and perhaps that's going to give you a much better view of it, which is then going to in turn bring you the wisdom of it. From 11 Tz'ikin, we're then going to go into 12 Ajmak. So Ajmak, forgiveness. Ajmak, all about being a human, all about, recognizing that we're not perfect, that we make mistakes, and asking for forgiveness, and asking to be forgiven, helping to forgive ourselves, helping to forgive others as well. So here it's with a very high number, it's with the number 12. The number 12 representing all of life's experiences. And so 12 Ajmak can be, I think, very much about releasing something from the past. It's really about looking at, well, who knows what it might be, but past life experience where forgiveness is needed in order to move on. Because again, sometimes you hit that wall, don't you? You can't advance with your energy, you can't advance with your wisdom until you've actually kind of like forgiven something, you've overcome something, you've been able to move forward from that burden which might be blame or shame or guilt that you've been carrying. It's like, well, where's the wisdom in that? How is that empowering? We're talking about a Trecena, a 13-day period of empowerment. And in order to do that, we have to drop the stuff that we can't carry anymore. Now, this is not necessarily about dropping responsibilities at all, because sometimes it's, kind of like, this is not what Kan is about. It's about empowerment, and if we are carrying stuff that we don't need, blaming ourselves for something which we were just being human, or blaming somebody else when they were just being human, then we're going to miss that wisdom. We're going to miss out in the empowerment. And so, this is where it's like, right, okay, maybe you got to go back through your journal or whatever and find out when things happen or how things happen or whatever it might be. But 12 Ajmak is a great day for the forgiveness of past life experiences. And then finally, in this Trecena, we're going to end up on 13 Noch. Now, 13 Noch is a very, very interesting day. Firstly, we've got Noch, which is all about intellect, it's all about knowledge. And then we got 13, which is ancestors. It's from the past, it's from spirit. So this is kind of like, this is wrapping up this Trecena representing wisdom and power with a day on which we get the knowledge from the ancestors coming through. So I think it's a very, very interesting day to finish that Trecena on. I mean, it's always going to finish on that day, of course, but it's just kind of like interesting to see the way that it works. So what could we expect for 13 Noch? Well, for sure, stay open to the messages that come in from the ancestors. It's a great day, if you're going to dig in books or go on a course or something like that with regards to ancestral knowledge, then 13 Noch is possibly one of the best days. It's where, literally the ancestors are speaking through whatever medium in order to furnish you with that knowledge. We can also see that Noch is the problem solver. It's the one who understands how to put ideas together in order to, solve the problems of society, solve the problems around it. And so 13 Noch may be a day in which spirit or the ancestors, or however you want to put that, come together in order to bring the solution. It's kind of like Noch has this reputation of like ideas popping out like that. In Yucatec dialect, it would be Kaban, and Kaban is sometimes translated as earthquake, and it's literally like things that come out of the blue, solutions that come out of the blue, answers to questions that come out of the blue, as it were. And here we have it turned up to 13 and connected with the number which represents the ancestors. So it's almost as if like the ancestors may speak through and come up very rapidly out of the blue with a solution to something that you've been looking for. Again, bringing the wisdom and hopefully empowering the people around it in order to, bring out the full power of it. Okay, so that's the Trecena of Kan. I haven't seen any lightning, but I've also managed to dodge the rain. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to seeing you again in 13 days' time for the Trecena of Tz'i. Thank you.